Good, it's going? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Shakar. Reading from the Bavli and Chagiga, the bottom of Beis Amud Aleph. Tanan, Misha Chetzio Eved Chetzio Ben Chorin, Oved Es Rabo Yom Echad Es Atzmo Yom Echad, Divrei Beis Hillel. If an Eved who has only made himself halfway out, so to speak, of slavery, he's purchased back half of himself, or someone has purchased half of him, and he's in a limbo halachic state of Chetzi Eved Chetzi Ben Chorin. Beis Hillel says, what's the arrangement for such a person? He's not fully free, yet he's not fully under servitude. So he serves his master one day, and then he serves himself for one day, back and forth, back and forth. That's the state that he's going to live in, until he can figure out how to redeem the rest of himself. Amr Lehem Beis Shammai. Beis Shammai responded to Beis Hillel. Tikantem es rabo, that's atzma lo tikantem. You found a solution for the master. You found a way that the owner, so to speak, is able to get from the Eved what he's supposed to, but you haven't provided a solution for the Eved himself. Lisa shifcha eino yachol. This person is not able to marry a non-Jewish woman because he's Chetzi Ben Chorin. He's already made it into full convert status. He's halfway out the door, so to speak. Bas Chorin eino yachol. He's also not able to marry a Jewish woman because he's still in the state of half of servitude. Li vatel, if you're going to tell him to just forget about it and not get married at all, the world was created in order so that there can be human flourishing in the world. Shneimar, as it says in the pasuk in Yeshayahu, lo tohu v'ra, l'sheves yitzara. God did not create the world in order to remain in a state of chaos and void, rather in order to l'sheves, to develop. Chazru Beis Hillel lahoros kedivrei Beis Shammai. And on the basis of this idea, on this answer, Beis Hillel went back and they reverted on their opinion and they ruled in accordance with Beis Shammai. The contrast that we find in the parsha, moving from the parsha of Yisro to the parsha of Mishpatim, highlights one of the most important dualities that we find in the nature of Torah. Matan Torah is given to Klal Yisrael in isolation on a mountain in the middle of the desert. As we learn later on in Sefer Bamidbar, Omimidbar Matana, that the Torah was given as a gift to the Jewish people in the desert. The Midrash Tanchuma says, B'shlosha devarim nitna Torah liYisrael. The Torah was given through three modalities, three energies to the Jewish people, and one of those things is the Midbar. The Midbar wasn't just the backdrop that happened to be the place where the Torah was given. It was the modality, it was the channel through which the Torah was given. The Mechilta in Parshas Beshalach says very, very powerfully that the Jewish people were contained within this atmosphere of isolation because Hashem feared if I bring them into Eretz Yisrael and give them the Torah there, right? Osuk ish tachas gefano, this one's going to go tend to his vineyard. The ish tachas teinasa, and this one's going to go tend to his fig trees, and no one's going to be able to initiate themselves into Torah. Ela ani matridam bamidbar arba'im shana. I'm going to bring them through the desert for 40 years. The ochlem es haman, the shosam es habe'er, and they're going to only have man to consume, and only have the water from the be'er to consume. They're going to have nothing to do, and be able to focus only on this, initiating themselves into Torah. This is the modality that we experience almost viscerally in the description of Matan Torah. The Jewish people are alone with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the desert, receiving the Torah. And then almost immediately, we're introduced almost in a 180 type fashion into Parshas Mishpatim, where we're given this incredibly colorful view of a fully functioning society, of all the different things going on. We have Eved Ivri, we have oxes goring other oxes, we have people doing business transactions. There's just the whole full gamut of a regular, normal place where people are doing regular, normal stuff. And it's telling you how to conduct yourselves when you find yourself in this environment. This is the inverse of the Mimidbar Matana, the desolation of the desert that we are put in order to be in solitude with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is the picture of a fully developed situation. It is this dichotomy, it is this clash, so to speak, which highlights, again, the very character of the Torah itself. Reading from a Mishnah in Maseches Kedushin, in Daf Mem. Kol sheyeshno b'mikra u'b'mishna u'b'derech eretz lo bimhera uchota. Anyone who devotes themselves to the study of Mikra, Tanakh, and Mishnah, and Derech Eretz, and engages in some type of profession, he will not come to sin easily. As it says in the Pasuk in Koheles, V'achut ha'mishulash lo bimhera yinatek. The three-layered rope will not be undone easily. V'chol she'eino lo b'mikra v'lo b'mishnah v'lo b'derech eretz. Anyone who is not in the study of Mikra or Mishnah, or does not engage in Derech Eretz, eino min ha'yishuv. He is not of society, or of the settling. He is not of the settling. What does that mean that he's not of the settling? So first of all, it's important to understand this Mishnah is said in a halachic context. This is a psak halacha that's being brought in the Mishnah. It's not just a nice idea that it's important to devote yourself to Torah study and to find a profession and to work. This is stated in a halachic context. I'll read you all a section from Choshen Mishpat in Hilchos Eidos in Siman Lamed Daled. The Shulchan Aruch is quoting the Rambam in Hilchos Eidos in Perek Yud Aleph. Misha eino lo b'mikra v'lo b'mishnah v'lo b'derech eretz harei ze b'chezkas rasha u'pasol le'edus. Someone who is known that he doesn't learn and that he's not engaged in any profession, he's assumed to be a rasha and he's invalid for testimony. That's what that means when the Mishnah says eino min ha'yishuv, meaning we can't rely on him for anything. Someone like this, he's not min ha'yishuv. We can't have this person come into Beis Din, give over his version of events, and then execute a psak din based on what this person is telling us. The person has to be reliable. Lefikach, therefore, says the Rambam, ein mosrin edus la'am ha'aretz, ein mekablim mimenu edus. We shouldn't give testimony to an am ha'aretz, and you certainly can't receive edus from him. Elein kein huchzak she'osek b'mitzvos uv'gemilas chasadim v'noeg b'derech ha'yesharim. If we can find people that can testify to them that he's basically a good guy and he's reliable and he's trustworthy, then you can receive testimony from him. But otherwise, he's assumed to be a rasha. He's a b'chezkas rasha. That's strong words. Strong words to say. In the previous halacha, the Shulchan Aruch brings from the Mishnah and Sanhedrin that talks about the psul known as Masachik Bekubia. Masachik Bekubia literally means those who play with dice. Because those who play with dice are pasol le'edus. What is the nature of this psul of people who play with dice? They're automatically invalid to give testimony in Beis Din. What is the nature of this psul? So the shita of the Rambam is that Masachik Bekubia is pasol mishum gezel. A person who engages in these types of games of gambling is at least a pseudo gazlan, not an outright gazlan. Because the Rambam holds that these types of games, when people earn their winnings, they're basically earning it in an honest fashion, and any money that they take away is theft. That's the shita of the Rambam. However, Rashi ala makom on this Mishnah says the following: Mishum she'eino osek b'yeshuvo shel olam. Someone who spends his days in these types of activities, and the Mishnah lists more activities. Masachik Bekubia is an umbrella, so to speak, for all types of idle, wasting time activities. Someone who spends their time only doing this, chezkaso she'eino osek b'yeshuvo shel olam. He doesn't involve himself with developing the world in any substantive way. The Meir Seinaim, Rav Yaakov Falk, on this halach over here. L'tam Rashi v'hatur, the perush mishum b'gemara, the pasuk mishum she'eino osek b'yeshuvo shel olam, that this person is invalid for edus because he doesn't involve himself with the development of the world. Kevan she'ein lo malacha, eino yodea kama kasha al bnei adam hamos u'michyasa. He doesn't understand, he has no appreciation what it's worth for people when they make money and have their own possessions. V'yakel olav l'hayid sheker. And that's going to make, he's like, it's okay if I say a little white line basin. What's going to be the end of the day? A guy's going to have to pay a little bit of extra money. He has no conception of how important it is for people that they invest in something, that they build something, and it's theirs. Someone who doesn't know that firsthand, we can't rely on them. Mishum she'eino osek v'yeshuvo shel olam. Going back to that Gemara and Chagiga for just one moment. If I just a few questions on this Gemara. If I wanted to bring you a proof of the importance of Pirya Verivya, as Beis Shammai says, which pasuk would I quote you? Which pasuk would I bring you to bring you a proof that Pirya Verivya is an important thing from the Torah's perspective? Which pasuk would I quote you? Huh? Right in the beginning of the story, right? Pru uravu milu haaretz v'chivshua. You bring me a random pasuk from Sefer Yeshayahu. That pasuk from Yeshayahu doesn't mention Pirya Verivya at all. Lo l'tov v'ra, God did not create the world in order to remain in a state of chaos and void. L'sheva sitzara. Okay, fine. And if you're going to insist that, somehow that's referring to Pirya Verivya, just bring me the pasuk from Bereshis. Why are you bringing me rayas from this strange pasuk? The secret of this Rabbosai, it's not fundamentally a problem that this Chetzi Eben, Chetzi Ben Chorin is in a state where he can't be Makayim a mitzvah. There are many situations, which I'm sure you'll all be familiar with at some point at least, where a person is halachically unable to fulfill a mitzvah. What's a really good example? A person is neder. He makes a neder forbidding himself to eat matzah, to sit in a sukkah. It's possible. It's possible that a person puts himself in a halachic scenario where he's unable to fulfill a certain mitzvah. That's not the problem. That doesn't call for Beis Din coming and forcing a solution to that state. A person puts himself in a precarious situation. Okay, he needs to figure it out. But for some reason, this situation, it calls for us to intervene collectively. We have to intervene. And that's the raya from the pasuk in Yeshayahu. There's a deep secret being communicated in this pasuk in Yeshayahu. A deep secret. Lo l'tov v'ra. God did not create the world in order to revert back to a state of chaos and void. The entire process of the Bria, Rabbosai, the entire process of the Bria, Vayera Vayivoker Yom X, is the creation going from a state of disorder, of the starting off with Tohu Vavon, and entering a state of more order. Erev, as the Rambam says, Milashon Ta'aro, the Ramban. As the Ramban says in his Perush al Torah, Erev Milashon Ta'aroves. There was no evening and night before the sun. Obviously, there's no setting and rising of the sun. There was no sun. Erev Milashon Ta'aroves, a jumble, an incoherent chaos. And Boker Milashon Levaker, to discern, order. Chaos into order, chaos into order. That's the process of the Bria. God did not create the world in order to go back to that state of Tohu Vavohu. At every state of the Bria, HaKadosh Baruch Hu declares, Vayar Elohim ki tov. Tov, this is good. We're making progress. Vayar Elohim ki tov is making a declaration that we are moving in the right direction. We're moving away from Tohu into more and more order, into more and more Seder, into more and more Yishuv. It's more and more Yishuv that we're creating. Rabbosai, what is the last holdout? The last holdout of Tohu in the world. The last holdout of Tohu is Lo Tov. Lo Tov. Heyos ha'adam levado. All this was Tov. Everything until now was fine. It was great. We're moving in the right direction. But there's one holdout of Tohu. And that's it. This is the last holdout of Tohu. When Beis Shammai says we have to find a solution, Ki lo l'tohu v'ra. God did not design the world in order to go back to Tohu v'vo. And this is the last holdout of Tohu. We can't tolerate this. We have to intervene to make sure that this person has a solution. This is the Yishuv. When the Mishnah says, Eino min ha-Yishuv, this is the Yishuv that this person isn't part of. He is going back against the very fabric of creation, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a process which allows the spirit of life and innovation and creation to produce more and more Seder in the world. And this person, she'eino lo b'mikra v'lo b'mishnah v'lo b'derech eretz, eino min ha-Yishuv. He's not participating in that. He's not participating in the plan that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to bring flourishing to creation. And it is these two parshios of Yisro and Mishpatim, of Matan Torah and the Seder, the halachos that govern a functioning, flourishing society, that are the 2 points of this. It is the Mikra Mishnah on the one end, the Matan Torah, and the Derech Eretz, the Parshas Mishpatim on the other hand. It is these two things combined that allow the Yeshuva Shel Olam. Chazal highlight this very, very strongly. that this is a two-step process. Most of the people in this room are in the first stage of this process. Right? Kinyan Torah, as Chazal call it. Kinyan Torah requires a replication of what Matan Torah looked like. Mimidbar matana. As Chazal say in the Brisa and Maseches Avos, Kachi darka shel Torah. If you want to initiate yourself into Torah, this is how you got to do it. Pas b'melach tochal. You're going to eat the bare minimum. You're going to sleep on the floor. This is how you do it. Don't worry. As the Maharal says, it's not precious l'shem precious. As he says over there, it's precious in order to allow yourself to learn. If this is what helps you learn, okay, great. But it's the retreat. It's the retreat into being alone, face to face, in solitude with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with the Torah, in order to be able to initiate oneself into that. That is the Matan Torah stage. But there's stage two. There is stage two. That even now we have to appreciate that this is the missing piece. In order to be part of Yeshuvo Shel Olam, it is these two components brought together that was the ultimate plan of flourishing and thriving that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had in mind for the Bria. Just share with you the Babli in Maseches Shabbos on Daf Kuf Yud Daled. The Babli quotes the pasuk from Sefer Mishlei. V'chotei chamas nafsho. Those who sin, they are stealing their own soul. Kol misanai evu mavas. And all those who hate me love death. Who is speaking in this pasuk? The entity that is speaking in this pasuk is the Torah itself. The embodied Torah is speaking about herself. Misanai evu mavas. Those who despise me, they love death. You might think, who loves death? Someone who says that is so naive, they have something coming. There are plenty of people, who are begeder ohavei mavas. Ohavei mavas. Says the Gemara, what is this referring to? Amar B'chia bar Abba, Kol Talmid Chacham, Shenimsa Revav al Bigdo, Chayav Misa. Any student of the wise who his clothes become slightly dirty, Ki'ilu Chayav Misa. Shneimar, as it says in the pasuk, Misanai evu mavas. Those who hate me love death. Al tirkei misanai. Don't read it. Those who hate me. Ela masni'ai. Those who cause people to hate me. Someone who represents themselves as someone who carries Torah in the world in a way that causes people to look at Torah in a slightly less than positive way. Masni'ai evu mavas. But as we know, midat Torah meruba. The positive manifestation of something is always stronger than the negative manifestation of something. And the positive manifestation we find in Yoma. Gemara in Yoma and Daf Pevav. Gemara quotes the pasuk, V'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. You will love Hashem your God. Says the Gemara, She'ashem shamayim misahev al yodecha. Not only should you love HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but you should ensure that others are brought about to the love of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. She'akara v'shona. First, the person has to dedicate themselves to Torah. Kara v'shona mishamish talmidei chachamim. V'eimaso umatono benachas imabrios. And then all of your dealings with humanity must be nice and pleasant. Ma'abrios omer salav. Ashrei aviv shalamdo Torah. How fortunate is this person's father who taught him Torah. Ashrei rabo shalamdo Torah. And so to his teachers. Oy lahem labrios shalolamdu Torah. Woe unto humanity that they are disconnected from Torah. And this is the message that we're trying to give. It's not just good marketing. This is the message. The message is that the Torah is the revivifying spirit that allows the world to flourish. It is Lasheves Yitzhara. God wants the world to flourish. He wants it. To bring this down concretely as much as possible, the tchunos, the qualities that we acquire from fomenting a real substantive relationship with Talmud Torah now, the qualities that allow us to bring this Lasheves Yitzhara, to allow the flourishing of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to enter the world. What are these qualities? I believe that there are three main qualities that we learn. Quality number one, tzedakah o mishpat, justice and fairness. The pasuk makes very clear that Avram Avinu, the man who started this whole thing, was chosen for one reason. Ki yida'ativ, the pasuk in Parshas Vayera, I have chosen him. Laman yilamed es banav es beiso acharav, because he's going to teach his children in his household after him. Vishmor derech Hashem la'asos tzedakah u'mishpat. That's why I chose him, because I know that he's going to continue the path of tzedakah u'mishpat. Tzion b'mishpat tipadeh v'shavya b'tzedakah. And the redemption is going to come about because of these qualities, because there was a man that started this chain, that his progeny will be the people that embody tzedakah u'mishpat. That is the first bedrock tchuna that we take away from a real substantive relationship with Torah. Today, the concepts of fairness, either fairness and justice have become such cynical terms that you can't even bring them up in normal conversation. It becomes so, you're just a laughingstock if you say these terms. It's like the words of a punchline. It's not actually words that mean anything. But from the Torah's perspective, this is literally the redemption of the individual and the entire world. Tzedakah u'mishpat. Everything is tzedakah u'mishpat. Tchuna number 2, yira, awe. As Chazal say constantly throughout the Gemara, Torah mipi hagvura. The Torah was given from the mouth of the mighty one. Kolos ubrakim, thunder and lightning, the biggest sound and light show ever. The Gemara in Brachos and Daf Chaf Aleph says that for this reason, people who have entered a certain type of tumah, of ritual impurity, were declared by Ezra forbidden for engaging in Torah study. Kima Torah nitna be'ema bereses ubezeya. The Torah was given through fear and trembling. Fear and trembling. To stand at Har Sinai and suddenly you're swept away with this prophetic experience that you can't control, you can't explain, it comes out of nowhere, you're seeing angels flying all over the place, and the fire, and the lightning, and the shofar. It's scary. Be'ema bereses ubezeya. And that awe, that fear and trembling is in our DNA. And it is accessed and it's awakened through a substantive, real relationship with Talmud Torah. Awe. Again, in our world, there's no fear and awe. Maybe there's gravitas. Maybe there's social prestige, likes. There's no awe. There's no awe of anything. There's no perception that this thing needs to be guarded and respected. That perception is acquired through Torah. Third and final tchuna, ahava. Ahava. Ahava rabbah ahavtanu Hashem Elokeinu. Every day, twice a day, we make the blessing that the giving of the Torah was God's expression of love to the Jewish people. As the Gemara in Shabbos on Daf Peiches says, Anochi Adonai Elohecha Notrikon is an acronym. Anochi, Ana Nafshi Ksivas Yehivas. I have wrote down my soul and given it to you. The giving of the Torah was HaKadosh Baruch Hu's expression of his deep and never-ending love of the Jewish people. Ohev Amo Yisrael. And in turn, our connection to Torah is our expression of love back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to humanity. As David HaMelech says, the longest chapter in the entire Kisvei HaKodesh, Tehillim Kuf Yutes, 176 verses. That's a lot of verses. And what's the topic? How much David HaMelech is desperately in love with Torah. That's the whole thing. 176 verses about how we can't live without Torah. I will delight in my mitzvos that you love. And your servant is stricken with love. It's all about that. That's the whole thing. The longest chapter in Kisvei HaKodesh. And indeed, the Brisa in Maseches Avos, Kol halomei Torah lishma, anyone who engages in Torah for its own sake, Nikra ahuv, he is called the beloved, Nikra reya, a reliable friend, Oeves hamakom, he loves the Creator, Oeves habrios, he loves humanity, Misameach es hamakom, he brings joy to the Creator, Misameach es habrios, and he brings joy to humanity. It is this spirit that we are trying to access, to acquire its traits, to inculcate those traits, to form that relationship for ourselves as individuals, and to bring that spirit to the entire world. I'll just end off with one idea that's coming to mind right now. The tefillah that Chazal were metaken In the Mishnah in Maseches Brachos, this is a halacha, that a person, when they come into the Beis HaMedrash, they're supposed to say a certain tefillah. And when they leave the Beis HaMedrash, they're also supposed to say a certain tefillah. Don't worry, it's easy. It's written on the entrance to the Beis Medrash. You don't have to do anything. You just read it right there. When you're going in, you're coming out, you say it. It's great. When a person leaves the Beis HaMedrash, they say the following: Modeh ani Hashem lefanecha. Right? I thank you, O Hashem, shesamta chelkeinu miyoshvei Beis HaMedrash, that you allowed us to have our portion in those who sit in the Beit HaMidrash. She'anu mashkimin ve'ein mashkimin. Because they, meaning the people who aren't the Yoshevei Beis HaMedrash, okay, they wake up and we wake up. Anu mashkimin l'divrei Torah ve'ein mashkimin l'dvarim betelim. We wake up for important things. They wake up for nothing. For nothing. Betelim. Emptiness. Right? Anu ratzim ve'heim ratzim. It ends off. We run and they run. Where do they run? Anu ratzim l'chayei ha'olam haba. We run to the perfected version of reality. To the highest elevated, perfected version of reality. Ve'heim ratzim leve'er shachas. And they run to the well of destruction. Shne'emar, ve'ata Elohim, torideim leve'er shachas, anshe damim u'mirma, lo yechitzuyim mehem, v'ani eftach bach. That seems very, very black and white, friends. That seems very black and white. Okay, so it's good to be Miyosha Beis HaMedrash, but everyone else is waking up in the morning for complete emptiness and vanity, and they're running to the well of destruction? That seems very harsh. But the depths of this message, Rabbosai, is that it is only through the spirit that was acquired through Sinai, that allows for authentic and real flourishing of the world. And even if we may see the facade of gentility and nicety in places that are not connected to Torah, unfortunately, it is just that. Unfortunately, it is just that. It is a facade. As we've all had the unfortunate privilege, I would call it, the unfortunate privilege to see the mask coming off as much as it has over the past recent period that we're all living through. The facade of the enlightened, of the educated, of the perceptive, of the real people who know things, it's all a facade. When the real, courageous, moral decisions need to be made, everyone collapses immediately. HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, Lasheves Yitzhara, for flourishing. That's why we're doing this. That is why we're doing this. And the travesty of the Jewish people over the past 2,000 years is that we have been in galut. What does that mean in galut? Not that we just were kicked out of that would be bad enough that we were kicked out of our land. But everything has been in exile. Our ability to impact and influence has been completely cut off and limited. The first thing to go into galut, before the nation, before the Am went into galut, what was the first thing that went into galut? The Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin went into exile before the nation went into exile. As the Gemara in Avodah Zarah tells us, Misha Rabu Harotzchim Golsa Sanhedrin. When society became so corrupted that there was no point in trying to prosecute criminals, so the Sanhedrin, they removed themselves. There's a place when things become so out of whack that there's no point in trying to fix it anymore. And that's the galut. It's the retreating back. The retreating back into the only safe place that we have. And that's been more or less the story of the Jewish people for a very long time. And thank God, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us at least the minimal refuge that we were able to not only survive, but also have a continuity and even thrive to a very, very strong degree. And this is now changing. It's been changing gradually for a while, and we are in the thick of the transition period, where we have to start taking this very, very seriously. The state of Kinyan Shel Torah, the stage rather of Kinyan Torah, is still very, very applicable, and that's what that's what we're doing here. We're in the Kinyan Shel Torah. We're in the walls of the Beis Medrash, singularly focused on this pursuit, with the goal of Lasheves Yitzhara, in order to bring influence into the world. And I'll leave you with just one piece of unsolicited advice to begin thinking about this now. Now, in your early years of yeshiva, what does it look like for me as an individual to bring the ruach of Torah to the world in order to create Lasheves Yitzhara? Because everyone has their own version. There's no one size fits all when it comes to this. And if this inspires someone, they should begin to take it seriously now. Osek b'mikra, u'b'mishnah, u'mishamish talmidei chachamim, delve into it as much as possible in a singularly focused way. And then Be'ezrat Hashem, through that kinyan shel Torah, through that acquisition, we will be able to bring that spirit l'sheves yitzara. Chizku v'amis levavchem kol hamiyachalim l'Adonai.